Hey there, welcome back. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something a little different, something that grapples with those big existential questions we all ponder, meaning purpose and happiness. That's right, we're cracking open the Book of Ecclesiastes, chapters 1 through 12, from the World English Bible Translation. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Ecclesiastes, isn't that the one that's all doom and gloom? But trust me, there's more to it than meets the eye.
You hit the nail on the head. Ecclesiastes is often seen as pessimistic, but it's actually surprisingly relatable. It's a book that doesn't shy away from the hard stuff. It stares straight into the face of the human condition, questioning everything we chase after in this life.
Totally. It's like the author, who identifies himself as the son of David, king in Jerusalem, is having this out loud existential crisis. And lucky for us, we get a front row seat. But let's start with those famous opening lines. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Talk about setting the mood. I mean, what exactly did the preacher mean by vanity?
Good question. It's not about being obsessed with your appearance, like we think of it today. The Hebrew word translated as vanity is closer to or vapor. It's saying that everything in the material world is fleeting, temporary.
Ah. So it's like saying everything we strive for is basically like chasing smoke. Here 1 minute, gone the next. Kind of makes you think about those things we pour our energy into that ultimately fade away, doesn't it? Like obsessing over getting more likes on social media or stressing about that promotion could all be vanity in a way. Right.
Exactly. And the preacher doesn't just drop this idea. He spends the whole book exploring it, taking us along in his own journey as he tries to figure it all out. And it starts with this really vivid observation about the cyclical nature of life. It's like he's saying, hey, look around, everything goes in circles.
It's true. Generations come and go. The sun rises and sets. The wind just keeps swirling around. It's like that never-ending cycle of laundry, but on a cosmic scale. He even says, all the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place where the rivers flow, there they flow again.
That's some serious imagery, isn't it?
Absolutely. He's painting a picture of constant repetition. And it makes you wonder, what feels repetitive in your own life? Are there patterns you're stuck in? What does that tell you about how you're experiencing time?
Ooh, those are great questions to ponder. And this leads us to what the preacher grapples with next, the whole point of it all. If everything just keeps going in circles, he embarks on this big quest to find meaning, trying out all sorts of things: wisdom, pleasure, wealth, even throwing himself into his work. And remember, this isn't just some theory for him. He's the son of David, king in Jerusalem. He's had all the wealth, power, and resources anyone could ask for. He's speaking from a place of experience.
So this isn't just armchair philosophy, huh? He's really put it to the test. And then, what's the verdict? Does he finally crack the code of a meaningful life?
Well, according to the preacher, none of it brought him lasting satisfaction. It was all temporary, all chasing after wind, as he puts it.
Okay, so that leads us to this fascinating paradox, the link between wisdom and sorrow. You'd think that the more you know, the happier you'd be.
Right. But the preacher throws us a curveball when he says, "And much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow." So what's that all about?
That's one of the most thought-provoking parts of Ecclesiastes. The more you learn about the world and the human condition, the more you realize how complex, painful, and limited it all is. I know that sounds a bit heavy, but it's like he's saying that sometimes ignorance is bliss.
I can see that. But doesn't that make you wonder about us modern-day info junkies? Are we all just increasing our sorrow as we scroll through news feeds and absorb all this information? Especially if it doesn't really lead to lasting fulfillment.
That's a great question. In a world overflowing with information, does more knowledge truly lead to understanding and a sense of purpose? Or are we just chasing fleeting bits of data? Something to consider. Right. Definitely. Okay, let's switch gears for a moment and talk about that poetic passage about a time for everything. In chapter 3, it still circles back to this idea of life's cyclical nature, but with a slightly different perspective.
Absolutely. Chapter 3 presents a beautiful framework for understanding how these cycles play out in our lives. It's like a dance between opposites: a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal.
When you read those words, it really hits you. that these opposing forces shape every single one of our experiences. There's a time for everything, and we're caught in this intricate dance.
Exactly. And instead of resisting the cycle, Chapter 3 encourages a kind of acceptance, recognizing that these contrasting experiences are all part of the natural order of things. What do you think? Does that resonate with you?
It really does. I find it strangely comforting to think that the ups and downs, the joys and sorrows, are all part of a bigger pattern. It's not just random chaos, but a rhythm to life.
And even with all this talk of vanity and cycles, there's this other element woven throughout Ecclesiastes, the idea of God. The preacher may wrestle with life's meaning, but he also acknowledges God's presence in the world.
You're right. It's like he's struggling to find meaning in a world where everything seems fleeting, but at the same time, he senses a higher power at work, a divine order that we might not fully grasp. It's a fascinating tension, isn't it?
Absolutely. It adds this whole other layer to the preacher's journey. He's searching for answers, but also recognizes that there's something greater than himself, a divine mystery at play. And that prompts us to think about our own beliefs and where we stand with faith.
Hey, it's like he's saying, hey, even if I don't have all the answers, I still believe there's something bigger than myself. And that actually leads to his big takeaway, finding joy in the simple things, which seems a bit ironic after starting the whole book with all his vanity. Right?
That's the beauty of Ecclesiastes. It comes full circle. The preacher realizes that even though everything fades away eventually, we can still find true happiness in simple pleasures. Eating, drinking, enjoying our work.
So it's not about denying the reality of life's fleeting nature, but rather using that awareness to appreciate those everyday moments even more. Because we know they won't last forever, we savor them while we can. Pretty powerful stuff.
It is. It reminds me of the saying, "This too shall pass." Knowing that even difficult times are temporary can bring a sense of peace. But on the flip side, knowing that the good time won't last forever helps us really appreciate them. Don't you think?
Totally. So we've covered a lot of ground already, what vanity really means, how life moves in cycles, the preacher's search for meaning, the surprising link between wisdom and sorrow, and even the importance of finding joy in the simple things. It's a lot to take in, and we've only just begun.
We've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover in Ecclesiastes. What stands out to you so far? Anything that's really resonating with you?
I don't know about you, but I'm already finding so many nuggets of wisdom in Ecclesiastes, even if some of it is a bit unsettling.
It's definitely a book that challenges us to think deeply about life. But the beauty of it is that it also offers guidance on how to live well, even amidst all the uncertainties. And as we move into the later chapters, the preacher starts getting really practical with his advice.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's dive into that practical wisdom. What's the first thing on the preacher's to-do list for a good life?
Well, one of the key things he emphasizes is remembering your Creator, especially in your younger years. It's that famous line in chapter 12. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth. What do you think? What does that mean to you?
You know, I've always found that verse intriguing. Is it about being religious, or is it something more? It feels like a call to live with intention, to not wait until you're old and gray to start thinking about what really matters.
Exactly. It could be interpreted on so many levels. It could be a reminder to live a life that honors God, but it can also be a broader call to reflect on your purpose, values, and how you want to spend your precious time.
I love that. It's like a reminder to not waste those useful years chasing empty pursuits. But the preacher doesn't sugarcoat things either. He goes on to paint this rather vivid picture of aging and the losses that come with it. Remember those evil days he talks about?
Oh, yes. The imagery in chapter 12 is powerful, maybe even a bit unsettling for some. The sun, moon, and stars lose their brightness. The keepers of the house tremble. The grinders cease because they are few. He's really driving home the point that time marches on for all of us. No one escapes the realities of growing older.
It's definitely a wake-up call. Makes you want to seize the day, right? Like, what am I waiting for? But it also makes you think about legacy. What will I leave behind? What kind of impact do I want to have on the world?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it connects directly to the preacher's overarching message, that our actions have consequences. We're not just drifting through life aimlessly. We're making choices that shape who we become and what we leave behind.
And that leads us to the final verses of Ecclesiastes, where the preacher lays it all out. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. After all that searching and exploring, it seems to come down to this simple statement.
Yes, but it's essential to understand what fear God means in this context. It's not about powering in terror, it's more about reverence, acknowledging that there's a power greater than ourselves. It's about recognizing that our actions have ultimate meaning, because we're accountable to something beyond this earthly existence.
So it's about living a life of respect and, dare I say, love for God. A life that reflects those beliefs in a tangible way.
Exactly. And notice how the preacher links fear of God with keeping his commandments. There's a moral dimension here, implying that true wisdom goes beyond intellectual understanding. It involves aligning your actions with your values.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk, right? Putting your faith into practice through your choices and behaviors.
Precisely. And he makes it crystal clear in the final verses, "For God will bring every work into judgment with every hidden thing, whether it is good or whether it is evil." It's a sobering reminder that our actions have consequences, both seen and unseen, even those secret thoughts and motives that no one else knows about.
Wow, that's pretty intense. It's like he's saying, hey, everything you do matters, even the stuff you think you're getting away with. It definitely makes you stop and think about the choices you're making, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and it brings us back to the theme of legacy, knowing that you will ultimately be judged for your actions, both good and bad. What kind of life will you choose to live?
It's a heavy question, but an important one to wrestle with, and I think that's what makes Ecclesiastes so powerful. It doesn't shy away from those difficult questions. It challenges us to confront them head on.
You said it. Ecclesiastes doesn't give us easy answers or simple solutions. It pushes us to grapple with life's complexities and draw our own conclusions.
It reminds us that even though life can sometimes feel like a pointless chasing after wind, as the preacher put it, there's still something more, something greater than ourselves worth striving for.
Absolutely. And that leads us to the more practical side of the preacher's advice. He doesn't just leave us with these weighty philosophical questions. He offers real-world guidance on how to live in light of these truths.
Okay, I'm really intrigued. What kind of practical advice does he give? I mean, how do you actually live a life that reflects this fear of God and keeping his commandments idea?
Well, he talks a lot about finding satisfaction in your work, cherishing your relationships, and embracing those simple pleasures we were talking about earlier. Remember how he emphasizes that every man should eat and drink and enjoy good in all his labor is the gift of God.
It's like he's saying, hey, even if your job isn't glamorous, there's still value in it. Put your heart into your work and allow yourself to experience the joy that comes from a job well done.
And he also reminds us that our time on earth is limited. In chapter 9, he tells us to, "Whatever your hand finds to do it with your might. For there is no work, nor plan, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in Sheol where you are going." Now, Sheol is the ancient Hebrew concept of the afterlife.
So he's basically saying, don't put things off you don't have forever. Make the most of your time and find something you can truly invest yourself in, whether it's your career, a hobby, or even how you approach those everyday tasks. I love that.
It's about finding meaning and purpose in the everyday, recognizing that even mundane tasks can be done with a sense of intention and excellence.
So it's not just about the big dramatic moments, but about infusing even the small things with purpose and effort.
And remember, he also emphasizes enjoying the fruits of your labor. In chapter 2, he reminds us that there is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and make his soul enjoy good in his labor.
It's about striking that balance between work and rest, effort and reward, and most importantly, remembering to actually savor those good things in life.
Exactly. And speaking of savoring the good things, the preacher has some insightful things to say about relationships, especially the importance of cherishing the wife whom you love.
Yes, he specifically encourages us to live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your life of vanity, which he has given you under the sun. All your days of vanity, for that is your portion in life, and in your labor in which you labor under the sun. What a beautiful sentiment.
It's a reminder to nurture those close relationships and to find joy in the simple act of sharing life with those we love, especially in a world where so much else feels temporary and uncertain.
And it ties back to finding meaning in the everyday mind. Sharing meals with loved ones, laughing together, creating those lasting memories.
It's about recognizing the profound beauty and value of human connection. It's about celebrating those simple joys that bring richness and depth to our lives.
So, even amidst all this talk of vanity, Ecclesiastes actually encourages us to find joy, meaning, and purpose in those simple everyday experiences.
Absolutely. It's not about denying the realities of life, but about embracing the beauty and richness that can be found in the midst of it all.
You know, it's funny, I came into this deep dive thinking Ecclesiastes was going to be all doom and gloom, but the more we unpack it, the more I see this undercurrent of hope and even a bit of humor.
It's definitely a book that defies expectations. It acknowledges the harsh realities of life, but it doesn't leave us wallowing in despair. Instead, it offers a path forward, a way to live meaningfully even when we recognize that everything is temporary.
It's like the preacher is saying, hey, I get it, life can feel pointless sometimes, but here's the deal. You've still got this one precious life. So why not make the most of it? Find joy where you can, do good work, love the people around you.
Exactly. And one of the most surprising things about Ecclesiastes, given all the talk about the fleeting nature of everything, is how much the preacher emphasizes embracing simple pleasures. It's almost like a permission slip to actually enjoy life.
Totally. He talks about finding satisfaction in eating, drinking, and experiencing pleasure. I especially love that line in chapter 2 where he says, there is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink and make his soul enjoy good in his labor. It's like he's giving us a free pass to savor those moments.
He is. And it's not about indulging in excess or pursuing fleeting thrills. It's about appreciating the gifts we've been given, recognizing that even simple pleasures are blessings. It's about finding that balance between enjoying life's goodness and remembering that it's all temporary.
Right. It's that awareness of life's impermanence that actually makes those moments even sweeter. Like knowing that a delicious meal won't last forever makes you savor every bite, or knowing that time with loved ones is precious makes you appreciate those moments of connection even more.
Exactly. Like that old saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder. But applied to everyday experiences, the knowledge that things won't last forever can actually make us more present, more grateful for what we have right now.
It's fascinating how this book, which starts with Vanity of Vanities, all is vanity, ends up giving us permission to enjoy life, find meaning in simple things, and live each day to the fullest.
It's the paradox of Ecclesiastes. By facing the reality of life's fleeting nature, we can actually gain a deeper appreciation for the present moment and a clearer sense of what truly matters.
So, if we had to boil it all down, what would you say is the most important takeaway from Ecclesiastes?
That's a great question. For me, it's the powerful combination of wisdom and action. Ecclesiastes isn't just about pondering life's mysteries. It's about using that understanding to make choices and take action.
It's about remembering our Creator, fearing God, and keeping His commandments. It's about finding joy in our work, cherishing our relationships, and saying yes to those simple pleasures that make life richer.
And ultimately, it's about recognizing that even though life can sometimes feel like a confusing and meaningless chase, there is still beauty, meaning, and purpose to be found. It's our job to seek those things out, to appreciate them, and to let them guide our steps.
So well said. Well, there you have it, folks, our deep dive into Ecclesiastes. It's a book that's both comforting and challenging, thought-provoking, and deeply human. And it leaves me with this one lingering question. If all is vanity, what truly matters in life? That's something I think we all need to ponder, don't you?
I couldn't agree more. Ecclesiastes invites us into an ongoing conversation about life, meaning, and purpose. And ultimately, the answers we find will be as unique as our own individual journeys.